Alright folks, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the murky waters of China's housing market. It's a complex and multifaceted issue that has been brewing for years, and now it's reaching a boiling point. It's a tale as old as time. A booming market, fueled by speculation and easy credit, eventually goes bust. The rapid urbanization and massive infrastructure projects have only added fuel to the fire. And when I say bust, I mean a spectacular porcelain meets concrete kind of bust. Entire buildings are being demolished, and projects are being abandoned mid-construction. For years, China's property market was the envy of the world, with prices soaring higher than a dragon on Red Bull. Investors from all over the globe poured money into what seemed like a never-ending gold rush. But what goes up must come down, right? The market's meteoric rise was unsustainable, and the cracks are now starting to show. And boy has it ever. Ghost cities, empty apartments, and unfinished developments are now a common sight. New home prices are down, resale values are plummeting faster than a disgraced official in a lift, and the once booming market is now in freefall. Property investment has gone down the loo faster than a dodgy bowl of street noodles. The ripple effects are being felt across the economy, affecting everything from retail to manufacturing. The Chinese government is scrambling, trying to inject some life back into this comatose market with stimulus packages and policy tweaks. They're pulling out all the stops to prevent a full-blown economic crisis. But the big question is, will it be enough? Can these measures stabilize the market, or are they just temporary band-aids on a gaping wound? Or are we about to witness the Great Wall of Debt crumble before our very eyes? The stakes are incredibly high, and the world is watching with bated breath. Stay tuned, because this rollercoaster ride is far from over. The twists and turns of China's housing market crisis are just beginning to unfold. One of the biggest culprits behind this whole mess is China's peculiar pre-sales model. This model has been a double-edged sword for the real estate market. Imagine this. You walk into a showroom, see a shiny scale model of an apartment building and think, hey, I wouldn't mind parking my yuan there. The model looks promising, the sales pitch is convincing, and the future seems bright. You then hand over a hefty chunk of change for a property that hasn't even been built yet. Your hard-earned money is now tied up in a promise, a vision of what could be. Sounds risky, right? Well, that's because it is. The uncertainty is palpable, and the stakes are incredibly high for the average buyer. This pre-sales model, while great for developers needing quick cash, has created a whole heap of problems. Construction delays? Rampant. Shoddy workmanship? You bet. The quality of these projects often leaves much to be desired. Developers absconding with the cash, leaving unfinished buildings in their wake. Sadly, not unheard of. This has left many buyers in a lurch, with their dreams of homeownership shattered. This model, coupled with a culture of speculative buying, fueled a bubble of epic proportions. People were buying properties not to live in, but to flip them for a quick profit, treating real estate like a stock market. People weren't just buying homes to live in, they were treating them like pork belly futures, hoping to flip them for a quick profit. The market was driven by speculation rather than genuine demand. But the music stopped, the bubble burst, and now we're left with a whole lot of unfinished buildings and a mountain of debt. The consequences have been dire, affecting not just the buyers, but the entire economy. Who could have seen this coming? Apart from, anyone with a basic understanding of economics, the warning signs were there, but they were ignored in the rush for quick profits. Now let's talk about the Chinese government's role in all of this. In their infinite wisdom, they decided to crack down on the real estate sector back in 2021. Their goal? To rein in those debt-fueled developers who were treating the housing market like their own personal casino. Did they have a point? Sure. Was it handled with the grace and finesse of a panda trying to knit a sweater? Not so much. The crackdown, while well-intentioned, had the unfortunate side effect of pushing some developers over the edge. Suddenly starved of cash, they found themselves unable to finish projects, leading to, you guessed it, even more unfinished buildings and angry home buyers. It's a classic case of the government trying to fix one problem and accidentally creating another. It's like trying to put out a fire with a bucket of gasoline, good intentions, disastrous results. Now imagine you're one of the millions of Chinese citizens who poured their life savings into a dream home, only to be left with a concrete shell and a gaping hole in your bank account. You'd be pretty pissed, right? Well, you're not alone. Across China, disgruntled homeowners and investors are making their voices heard, staging protests and demanding action. From unfinished construction sites to government offices, people are making it clear that they've had enough. This isn't just about lost investments, it's about broken dreams and a growing sense of frustration with the system. The Chinese government, usually adept at maintaining order, is facing a wave of public anger that's hard to ignore. Section 5. China's banks feel the heat, mortgage defaults and financial instability. Remember those unfinished buildings and mountains of debt we talked about? Well, they're starting to weigh heavily on China's financial system. Mortgage defaults are skyrocketing, leaving banks with a growing pile of bad loans. Think of it like this. You lend your mate Bob some money to buy a banana stand. Bob, being the entrepreneurial genius he is, forgets to factor in the whole demand for bananas thing and goes bust. Now, you're out the money, and you're stuck with a banana-less stand. That's essentially what's happening in China, but on a much larger scale. The banks lent money to developers defaulted, and now the banks are left holding the bag. A very large, very empty bag. This situation has sparked fears of a financial contagion, with some experts warning of a potential domino effect that could ripple through the global economy. Fun times, eh? Section 6. Beijing's Balancing Act, Government Response and Proposed Measures. So, what's the Chinese government doing about this whole mess? It's a question on everyone's mind, from the bustling streets of Beijing to the quiet corners of rural China. Well, they're trying to walk a tightrope, balancing their desire to stabilize the market with the need to avoid further fueling the debt bubble. It's a delicate dance, one that requires precision and caution. They've introduced a few stimulus measures, like easing home buying restrictions and offering tax breaks, hoping to breathe new life into the market. But these have been met with a resounding meh from the market. Investors and homebuyers alike remain skeptical, unsure if these measures are enough to turn the tide. It's like trying to revive a drowning man with a teaspoon of water. It's just not enough. The market needs a more substantial lifeline, something that can truly make a difference. There's also talk of a major overhaul of the pre-sales model, potentially requiring developers to sell only completed properties. This could change the game entirely. While this sounds great in theory, it presents its own set of challenges. Developers, already struggling with cash flow issues, might find it impossible to complete projects without pre-sale funds. While this sounds great in theory, it could also lead to a wave of developer bankruptcies, which would have a ripple effect throughout the economy. It could also lead to a wave of developer bankruptcies, which, let's face it, wouldn't exactly be ideal. The fallout could be catastrophic, affecting not just the real estate sector but the broader economy as well. It's a tricky situation, and the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They need to find a solution that addresses the root of the problem without causing further damage. It's a tricky situation, and the government is stuck between a rock and a hard place. They need to act decisively, but with caution. They need to act decisively, weighing every option carefully. The stakes are high and the margin for error is slim. But one wrong move could send the whole house of cards tumbling down. The future of China's real estate market hangs in the balance, and the world is watching closely. Section 7. A Glimmer of Hope. Expert predictions on the road to recovery. So, is there any light at the end of this tunnel? Well, according to the experts, a full recovery depends on a few key factors: broader economic stability, job security, and, most importantly, restored confidence in the housing market. Right now, confidence is about as high as a snake's belly in a boot shop. People are understandably wary of investing in a market that's prone to more crashes than a teenager learning to drive. Most analysts are predicting an L-shaped recovery, which is a fancy way of saying it's going to be a long, slow climb back to the top. Don't expect any miracles, folks. Section 8. A Ripple Effect, Global Implications, and the U.S. Housing Market. Now you might be thinking, this is all very interesting, John, but I don't live in China, why should I care? Well, my friend, in our interconnected global economy, what happens in China doesn't stay in China. Remember those mountains of debt we talked about? Well, a big chunk of that is held by foreign investors, including, you guessed it, the good old US of A. If China's housing market goes belly up, it could trigger a global financial crisis, sending shockwaves through the world economy. And let's not forget about China's massive holdings of US mortgage-backed securities, MBS. If they decide to unload those bad boys in a hurry, it could send US mortgage rates through the roof, making it even harder for Americans to buy homes. So yeah, while China's housing crisis might seem like a world away, its effects could be felt much closer to home. Section 9. The long road ahead, conclusion and potential outlook. So there you have it, folks. A crash course in China's housing crisis. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions. The Chinese government is facing a monumental challenge, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The outcome of this crisis will have far-reaching consequences, not just for China, but for the entire global economy. Will they be able to engineer a soft landing, or are we headed for a crash landing of epic proportions? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a bumpy ride.